All right, y'all. Final video for day 2, R5.2. We got Introduction to St. Ignatius's Rules for Discernment. You can find the link to the Rules for Discernment, the actual text, on Canvas. It'll be below the screw tape reading. You don't need to read them just yet, although we are going to go through some of them. We're going to read them for the next unit, okay, or the next day, R5.3, okay? But basically, just a quick introduction. Ignatius writes these rules in the spiritual exercises as kind of an appendix, an addendum to the spiritual exercises to help people understand how better to train their ability to discern their spirits, right? Like, if you are struggling with how to know what's going on in your interior life and your heart, here's some basic rules on how to figure that out, okay? So again, I wrote here, like, think you want to get rid of the spiritual roadblocks or the things that inhibit you from discerning your interior life well, so that you can discern God's will better, right? The same idea of preconceptions, right? You can't know why you think what you think about unless you've identified the preconceptions that are already influencing you, right? So what are the things in the spiritual life that are already having some kind of influence on you that is going to affect how you discern what's going on in your interior life, and then also discern what's going on in God's life for you, right? So the first rule, the first two really are about what kind of person are you, and then how does the good and evil spirit, you can think evil spirit being Screwtape, Satan, right, and good spirit, Holy Spirit, angels, things like that, right? It's not quite like that, but we can go with that for right now, right? The first rule is this: if you're a person, and you know if you are, right? If you're a person that's going from mortal sin to mortal sin, here's a rule for you. Okay, let's take a pause right there. When he says that you're a person going from mortal sin to mortal sin, this is not someone that's trying to do the good thing all the time and then occasionally falls into mortal sin. This is the person that is committing mortal sin after mortal sin and couldn't care less, right? They're not trying to be good and occasionally mess up. They're just not caring, right? They're doing whatever they want to do regardless if it's sinful or not. Okay, so if you're that kind of person, again, you'll know who you are. But this isn't the person that occasionally makes a mistake. This is someone that really couldn't care less, right? So what's the enemy going to do? The enemy of human nature is how Ignatius writes it, right? Well, the enemy of human nature, the evil spirit, what it's going to do is it's going to propose pleasures in the face of these sins, right? Or continuing these sins. It's going to constantly lure you and tempt you with the pleasure of the sin. So again, think about, we got in the background here, party with some red Solo cups, whatever's in them. Oh, come on, like, everyone's already drinking. You're going to be drinking in college. Just have another drink. Have a little bit more. Have a little bit more of, whatever else is going on, right? Whether it's, food, drink, sex, what have you, right? Just focusing in on that pleasure, right? Because if the devil can numb you to everything besides pleasure, then he's kind of won the game. Because if you're so stuck in the passions and the physical realm, you're never going to consider the things of God, right? If the highest good in your life is physical pleasure, then you're probably not going to worry about the things of belief and faith that we talked about yesterday, the things that go beyond the physical realm, right? Again, like the virtues of faith, hope, and love. If you're just worried about, eating enough food to feel good, again, not eating enough food to feel good as in normal health, but in terms of you just want to keep eating just Raising Cane's constantly because you love the way that the chicken fingers taste or something like that, or just getting Chick-fil-A every single meal and eating a ton of it because of how good it tastes, right? Or again, you constantly want to be in the state of being drunk because either it makes you feel good or that you want to escape reality, right? Then the devil's won the game. The good spirit in this moment is going to, Ignatius says, it's going to prick or bite your conscience and tell you, hey, wake up. What you're doing is not good. So if you're this guy and you feel that sting of what you're doing is not good, that's likely coming from God and from the good spirit. If you get that call, it doesn't really matter. Go ahead, do whatever you want. That's probably coming from the evil spirit. Seems pretty obvious, but let's move on to the second one because here's where it gets a little bit more tricky. If you're a person that's trying to do the good thing, and so you see these young people at Mass, I just typed in like college students at Mass, if you're someone trying to do the good thing, then it's almost the opposite of the first rule, right? Where the enemy is going to make you feel sad or again, Ignatius says, puts up false reasons like, oh, well, maybe you really are a bad person, and maybe he's going to like try to trick you through false reasoning. So if you're a good person that's trying to live a virtuous life and you keep getting these temptations that you're not a good person and that you should abandon doing good things because you're never going to be good enough or anything like that, that's going to come from the evil spirit, right? And if you're a good person, what the good spirit's going to do is going to encourage you, build you up, send you those consolations. So again, if you're a person going from mortal sin to mortal sin and you hear this encouragement to just, keep doing it, keep going after that pleasure, that kind of encouragement is coming from the devil. If you're a person going from trying to do the good things, right, and you hear some encouragement in your heart, that's probably coming from the good spirit, because the good spirit wants you to keep doing what you're doing, right? And the devil is going to do the opposite. He's going to want to get you to stop doing that. So let's say you're going to Mass and you're actually getting something out of it, and then you get this call of like this feeling in your heart, I don't know, I am kind of busy today. Maybe I'm not going to go to Mass. Well, again, we can't go to Mass right now because of the quarantine, but think about prayer, right? If you ever like sat down to pray and you're like, I don't know, I'm kind of busy right now, that's going to come from the evil spirit, because the evil spirit doesn't want you to be close to God. Okay, a couple more. This idea of spiritual consolation. What we got here is a picture of Krakow, Poland. And this is where John Paul II was a bishop of for a little while. I went and visited there about like 7 years ago. And it's a beautiful place, and it's a moment or a place for me of great spiritual consolation. I was a big fan, still am, of John Paul II. And we've already kind of go over this on the last video, so I'm not going to belabor the point. But the idea is that if you're in a moment of spiritual consolation, you're probably also going to be drawn to living it out, right? And that's how you can kind of tell the difference between real spiritual consolation and just like, as St. Paul says, the pleasures of the flesh, right? Is that you feel so close to God, you feel so moved with this connection to God that you want to do the things of God, right? So it's going to be accompanied by an increase in faith, hope, and love, right? Charity, love. And that you're going to want to get even closer to God in these moments of spiritual consolation. If you're feeling like this spiritual pride of like, man, I am really holy, man, I am really great, that's probably coming from the evil spirit and not actually God. You can tell if you're in spiritual consolation when your focus, your gaze is towards God and not yourself. And if it's towards yourself, then it's probably not really consolation, right? It's probably actually coming from the devil as a temptation to get you to fall away from the faith. Okay. And then just a couple more again for today. Fourth rule, spiritual desolation. That if you're in desolation, you're probably going to experience this darkness, right? But again, that doesn't mean that you're a bad person. That just means that you're in a moment where your spiritual life is not clear, you feel distant from God, but it's not necessarily connected to your morality, right? And so you want to be careful, though, in periods of desolation. It doesn't mean that you're not holy, but you do need to be careful, because it's probably going to come with some kind of laziness or tepidness with the spiritual things. It's gonna be harder to pray, right? When you're in consolation, it's easy to pray. When you're in desolation, it's harder to pray. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't go about doing it. Again, same thing is true in normal human endeavors. You could say like, not that this isn't a normal human endeavor, but like, again, working out, the examples we used yesterday. There are moments when you don't want to work out. There are times when my alarm goes off at 4:30, I don't want to get out of bed. Some days I'm excited to, like, I've got either a great workout planned, or I'm well rested and I'm ready to go run. Some days I'm tired. Some days Isabel, my daughter's gotten up multiple times a night and I'm just exhausted. I don't want to go run. It's especially important in those moments that you stay true and keep that routine, because not only is that going to pay dividends down the road, that consistency, but it's in those very moments you can almost say like the true nature of that virtue is revealed, right? That if you love someone even in the midst of the dark times or the hard times, that the real love is shown. And that's again how we mean or how we understand what we meant yesterday, which is that the unseen is more real than the seen. It's really easy to do acts of love and kindness and charity when you're feeling good about yourself and life. It's much harder to keep doing those things even when you're not feeling it. And that's how you know that real love exists. Now, with an eye towards vocation, in terms especially of marriage, our next topic, that's what we mean by real love. That if you love your wife, even in the midst of hardship, right? Either there's some kind of disagreement going on, or even something like this, like where you might see that your parents are stressed out because of finances, and how they're going to feed everybody, and how are you going to get all this schooling done, and you still choose to love the person even in the midst of hardships. That's when that real thing, the real love that's unseen, is built up and made manifest, right? Is that in these moments. So again, be careful in moments of desolation. And finally, our last note for today, great picture in the background. What a way to end the last day. Image from Rudy here, which is in moments of desolation, this is the be careful part, don't make a big decision. Don't make any big changes. Don't say, I feel like I'm in the spiritual darkness. God must not be real. I'm swearing off God forever, right? A lot of times this happens, right? When we have something bad go on in our life, we make this big choice that God must not be real then. If I don't feel close to God, he must not be real. Well, it may be that God is actually even closer to you than you realize, but you don't feel that sense of it, right? And so don't make such a big change. The moment of desolation will pass. Again, we said the idea of a good shooter knows he's going to make the next shot. Keep fighting the good fight, as St. Paul says. Don't give up just because in that moment you're in a moment of darkness, right? And so if you've ever seen the movie Rudy, excellent film. You got plenty of time right now. I'd go ahead and watch it. At this time, Rudy Rudiger has tried to get into Notre Dame many times, and he's been rejected many times, and he's got one last shot at it. And he keeps thinking, if I feel like God wants me to be at Notre Dame and play football for Notre Dame, and this is my last shot, and if it doesn't happen now, it'll never happen. And he's kind of getting depressed, and he's upset, and he wants to quit. And he gets the letter, right? And this is the letter that is going to tell him whether or not he got in or not. And right before this, he does want to, in fact, leave. And people are basically telling him, look, you've worked so hard. What does it matter? Like, maybe you get in, maybe you won't. But you've done the good things. Don't abandon hope in the good things you've done just because you haven't seen the result that you want yet. And that's what Ignatius is going to have us do here, is that maybe you've been working really hard in the spiritual life, but you're not seeing these big changes or these big results that you're hoping for. Well, don't abandon that hope. Don't stop doing those good things, even if the exterior circumstances seem to have not benefited you the way you would have hoped. Now, we do know if you watch the movie, he does get into Notre Dame. He runs down this hill, and he's all excited. Coincidentally, they try to make you think this is Holy Cross College, the community college across the street from Notre Dame. This is actually Moreau Seminary. This is the seminary that's on campus, not, in fact, Holy Cross College, which is across the street. So just a little fun fact there. Okay, so again, remain firm and resolute, even in moments of desolation, and make sure that you don't make any big changes in moments of desolation, right? Like, again, don't say, I'm not going to go to X college because you had one bad experience or something like that. Take some time. Keep praying about it. Keep working on making the right decision. And then when you're back in a moment of consolation, then go about it, okay? So for today, there is an end question quiz. It's five questions, so you make sure you complete that. And then there's no big quiz today. What we're going to do instead is we're going to do a journal, right? So this will be journal for R5. Just look for that in the R5 module. And the journal is going to basically ask you about, is there a moment in your life where you've had to make a big decision? How did you make that decision? What was your thought process? Do you think you were in a moment of consolation or desolation? Okay, and again, take some time working with that, and then we'll come back tomorrow to kind of go through some more of these rules for discernment. Okay, all right, y'all. I'll see you in the next one.